Hello, everybody, and welcome to this month's Empowered Musician. Kimberly Moller is with us today. I'd love to welcome her. She has a very, very unique career that kind of melds the musical theater with the classical singing. She's performed all over the nation, and in particular, I fangirled when I heard that you performed alongside Kristen Chenoweth, which is so cool. You're also a pedagogue and a teacher, an actor, and you specialize particularly with the connection of the brain, the body, and the voice. And yeah, you just have a super versatile career, and we're so happy to have you. Please let us know anything else about you that we should know that I might have missed.
Oh no, that's great. Thank you, Maya. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that you'd like to plug? Any fun things? I hear that you're in the recording studio and doing some film.
You're an amazing host. Thank you. I do have some exciting things coming up. I have a teacher training opportunity with my vocal kinesthetics company. We're going to be doing 4 weeks of an intensive, learning all about the brain and these really cool neuro drills that I do in my studio and online with folks that study with me regularly. It's for teachers, it's for college academic teachers, professors, independent folks. And honestly, it is so hard to like narrow that niche down because everybody has a brain and everybody has a body. And what's exciting is you can add these neuro drills in and instantly feel the effects. You know, like what you can use right before you go on stage for your nervous system to respond. It's just like the most exciting thing. And I love doing that when I perform. I love doing it, um, and helping folks that are on tour or that are going out for, doing understudy work, just jumping on stage and dealing with performance anxiety, things like that.
Oh, awesome. I love how you touched on performance anxiety. I know that a lot of our viewers struggle
Oh
with this.
yeah, jumping back in after, a couple years of like not a lot of things going on or
Absolutely.
recording in your living room. I've been also trying to be an athlete myself and jumping back into performing, whether that's in the studio or on stage. And let me tell you, costume changes, heels, all of the things that heat that you're dealing with in the summertime, all the things that your nervous system goes through is wild when you haven't done it for a minute. And performance anxiety, is feels like it is at an all-time high. I've got a lot of college professors reaching out for master classes, really to specifically give people drills and tools for that, for performance anxiety and managing that.
Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. I guess I want to dive into all this, but I think we should kind of give a baseline for all of our viewers. What is vocal kinesthetics and how, just please explain that. I'm so interested.
Absolutely. So I have been asked constantly in my voice lessons, what do you feel? What do you feel? And so that I can specifically try and recreate that when I'm practicing at home. And as I was diving into brain science and really, working on crossover work after I did, a lot of opera in Boston and early music, um, I realized that the body is a kinetic chain. And this feeling and really understanding what's called introception, or like how we connect to our own body, is not the same for everybody. So it is not one size fits all. And some people need external stimuli. Some people need to go inside and figure out how they can connect to either the vagus nerve or something that really unlocks anxiety or restriction for them. So that's what I decided to name my company, Vocal Kinesthetics, because if you have a link that is broken in that chain, um, you're only going to get so far in vocal technique, and there's going to be limitations because the brain is way more concerned with that other skill, like seeing a tiger coming at you or smelling a burning building so you can run. So that is why I named the company Vocal Kinesthetics, and it's all about taking something out of your perceived threats. And that can be anything from, your vision to your smell to tongue movement, which is the swallowing mechanism. It can be like opening up a joint in your toe, um, or in your foot that then like helps you connect to grounding and your support. So it's a bunch of different systems that you get to explore in vocal kinesthetics, and it's the study of brain science applied to singing.
I think it's really interesting how you brought up kind of survival mechanisms and somehow, these defense mechanisms actually backfiring on our singing. I'm wondering, like, what does safety and unsafety look like in a vocal career? Like, how does that affect your voice? And I guess going into how does trauma affect your voice?
Oh, yes. Trauma is kind of a big deal. Uh, you can only reflexively sing so well, just like you can only reflexively, touch your toes or do something that is something you don't think about, like breathing. That is why I feel like singing is actually the best test for this stuff. It's called neurocentric training, neurocentric performance training. And that just means that we start with the brain instead of the site of injury. So for us, the larynx is the site of injury, right? Even though we may not perceive it as being injured, or maybe it is injured and you do have trauma there. But the brain is a huge part of allowing this little thing, this little box in the throat to move. And if we have something going on in terms of even trauma or things said to you in the voice studio, unlocking that can be a huge benefit to this reflexive motion in your support and breathing. And you know in any kind of mental health treatment, we work on eyes a lot of the time. There's a lot of benefits from rapid eye movement. So testing your vision and assessing your balance in the world can have a huge effect on unlocking that kind of trust for your brain, because that's really what we're doing. We're getting the old brain or the brain stem to get online with the frontal lobe, which is what directs us to sing. We're like, I want to sing this high note coming up, and the old brain just wants to survive the experience. So we have to talk to the old brain before we talk to the new brain.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I think it's so interesting when you have teachers who have this different perspective. I know that Dana Varga studied psychology in college, and that's informed her teaching. And it's so interesting. I'm wondering how you got into brain science and how that's informed your teaching.
Absolutely, yes. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
I love that so much, and it makes so much sense. Having taken some lessons with her. Um, so let's see. I actually was beginning to study to implement a little bit of musical theater training into my study when I was getting my master's degree at Boston University, where I met Dana Varga, Dr. Dana Varga, and I started auditioning for musical theater shows myself because I, like many people, had to make opportunities for myself in college. And that was one part of it. And my students, all of my students wanted to study musical theater. And I was not getting that training in college at the master's level. There was no musical theater training in a voice program. So hello, red flag. I had to build that for myself too. So I had some awesome contacts with Mary Saunders Barton, who created the bel canto can belto method, and I adore her. Continue to adore her. But I was also beginning to explore the athleticism of musical theater, and I auditioned for a show called Xanadu, which is the most ridiculous, fun camp in the world. It is the most fun. I'm actually going to audition for it again here in a day or two, and it is such a great, interesting dive into like what systems are going to be working for you when you're on roller skates and singing. So I was crossing over from opera, and I was beginning to work on my speech level singing, and I just seemed to hit a wall consistently. Like it was difficult for me to train this middle part of my voice because I kept bringing weight into it. And then I was recommended by my teacher at BU to have a lesson with Andrew Byrne. And Andrew Byrne just wrote this amazing book called The Singing Athlete. He's been developing it for years. He's what's called a Z Health Master Trainer. And as soon as I had a lesson with him, I was completely hooked with his method, which is assessing the entire body and these systems. And, after a few lessons with him, I was able to belt 9 songs on roller skates, which was not anywhere near the level that I was at before I auditioned for the show and started with him. So I was super hooked, and I got the training that he got. I've completed several levels of Z Health myself, and I'm just obsessed with training this way because it is so effective, and I really think it is the missing link in terms of vocal pedagogy and learning how to teach the human in front of you, not just use what methods have worked for yourself, right? Because we're
Yeah,
people that have a wide array of experiences. You don't know what kinds of injury or things that they're dealing with from their past. And I think it's so interesting, that a simple foot drill can get you connected to your body, can allow you to sing more flexibly and, help you feel grounded.
that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, we're not robots. We're bodies and brains, and they're so complex and complicated. And I love that you're diving into this. It's so awesome. Um, I'm wondering how this correlating career of yours has supported your artistic endeavors and also provided you financial well-being. And can those two things go hand in hand in someone's career?
Absolutely. Dana Varga is like the goddess when it comes to this idea, and I love that she talks about it all the time. Um, I I love that I fell into this specific niche because it keeps me active. It keeps me accountable in teaching it every day. It improves my own singing and my own instrument. So it not only benefits my teaching, it benefits my instrument in my own work. And finding this path has really been, forging my own path. Andrew Byrne helped me sort of get into this and set my own expectations about, like, how much I could teach and how much I could sing. That was really difficult for me to be driving all over the place in Boston and doing in-home lessons and trying to also have an opera career. And my stamina vocally was compromised a lot when I started learning how to belt and trying to do all of these things at once. And the athleticism of this practice has benefited me greatly. It has incredible results in my studio. And I think that having to forge your own path and create your own opportunities in college is something that it was just ingrained in me as I grew up. And then I had wonderful mentors like Dana, who encouraged me to find this balance and to prioritize what I wanted to prioritize. And it might not look like everybody else. And that's okay. At this point, I actually think that I love group teaching as much as I love one-on-one teaching and being on stage. I love, giving a solo concert. I love working with band musicians. I love creating shows, being in shows, and trying to find a new perspective. And I also love sort of changing the whole way that we do this thing. With the voice studio, one-on-one work is super exciting. You can really deep dive into the kind of training you're doing with very specific cues and things like that. I can actually put my hands on people, and if they're comfortable with that, and make really big changes. But it's equally exciting to watch that I'm getting super giddy just talking about it, but it's equally exciting to watch it in a group setting in a masterclass because you're watching people free their body and kind of destigmatize talking about issues that they have or visual problems or being deaf in one ear, something like that. It's totally something that I is exciting to me about neuroscience and even like this whole correlating career thing is it's really the science of hope. You can kind of design your own future and you're practicing neurology whether you know it or not. So you can give yourself a new input and change the course of your future. You change how you walk every day. Those kinds of reps make a huge impact on the brain. And this whole perspective of even finding a correlating career that allows you to, buy a house or save money and live the life you want to live is something that I didn't really get to unlock in grad school until I met Dana Varga. So I just got to keep plugging her because she's amazing. Um, but I do think it's possible to find a niche, find something that you love, and have it be bigger than I'm going to be on Broadway or I'm going to get this young artist program or, get a Met contract.
Absolutely. I think in conservatory, speaking from, a student perspective, like there's this prescribed path to fulfillment, and that's like solo work, being famous sometimes, that's a big goal for a lot of people. And I hear you talking about how you sometimes feel most fulfilled when you're collaborating and making connections with other people. And I think that's so special. I loved stalking your social medias, and in particular, I loved your holiday shindig
Oh,
on on YouTube. And I'm wondering, like, how have you created spaces for people to perform together? I know that you love doing themed parties. It seems like that's a big part of your personality and your artistry.
totally. Okay, so yes, I during the pandemic and even prior, I love working with musicians. And I wanted to create opportunities for my studio to perform, but this is also an I want to perform thing too. And I know that can be kind of a weird concept to be performing alongside your teacher. But I really try to create an environment where we're colleagues. We're all colleagues with each other, and we might all be in different levels of our journey, but um, our experiences are so important to what make up our own nervous system, and the relationships that you form are what feed my soul. So I want those experiences for my students too, whether I'm in San Diego or in a masterclass setting. Um, about a year ago, as I was reopening my studio in person and things like that, I started doing these master classes that were themed. And my online studio kind of had a topic every month that we were diving into and exploring. So for April, we kind of did an in-person masterclass. It was really like the first time I had a sort of um, masterclass with a lovely pianist coach in town, and made a bunch of food and invited people to my home. And it was kind of a soiree. We had a signature cocktail. And it just was like, yeah, I just want to like have people over and share what I do. So that it's kind of a new shift, a new paradigm. It's not like a fancy cabaret bar. It's not 54 Below. It's not, something like that where you're getting an opportunity to perform per se, but it is an opportunity to perform in your living room, in a practice room that is supportive and low stakes. And I think that was missing in terms of, being stuck online during a pandemic and then trying to bridge that gap of where is this in between place where I can play and I can unlock my body and get opportunities to try something out memorized or work with a new human that's playing at the piano. And it became this really fun environment that I'm continuing to cultivate online. And occasionally I have in-person things. But the holiday shindig was really sort of born out of this band that I hired during the pandemic. And I've been building all these fun postmodern jukebox arrangements and things like that. I did a Disney medley with my husband. And so I'm partially doing it for myself, and I'm also doing it for my studio. And these companies in town, and a lot of regional theaters are struggling with this, but they don't have the budget to hire musicians. And I think that is just the saddest thing right now, as they are continuing to charge what they can for ticket prices to cover their costs. I'm at a place where I want to provide opportunities for performance, and I also want to show these theaters that it's possible. It doesn't have to be on this huge scale. It's possible to continue hiring, local live musicians and do the thing that you want to do, create shows and opportunities to do that. So I'm trying to take a step forward in terms of, producing
Yeah,
and
I
showing that it's possible.
I I think it's so interesting, like especially in America, we have like this standard that it's like these big houses, you have to seat, hundreds of people, and you talking about how you have these little get-togethers in your own living room. I mean, it reminds me kind of the tradition of like the Schubertiada or like the saloons, and like this is something that is a big part of classical music that I guess is missing in a lot of people's lives. So I love that you're bringing that up and advocating for your artists and giving them that platform as well. It's awesome.
Absolutely. This is one of the things I missed most about leaving academia. Um, I talk a lot about what I didn't get in academia, but what I did get was watching other people in studio class. And that was honestly, I learned more than my one-on-one sessions sometimes, because I could see other people working through it and how things could shift and change instantly. And it really motivated me to keep working on myself and practice, which is not a small thing during a pandemic.
Absolutely.
Trauma that we've been through, it's tough to get back into those kinds of habits when other things and making money and other things seem much more pressing.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of shifting into the end of our interview, I'm wondering if we can get into some of your personal habits for maintaining good mental health. I mean, you kind of do it all. And oftentimes our artists are pushed to do it all. And I'm wondering how you do it all with with good mental health.
Okay, so this is a fantastic topic because the last few days have been a little bit rough for me. Um, and it's not all, fun neuro drills and smiles on social media. I actually tried recording something yesterday like 3 or 4 times and was like, okay, how real can I be on social right now? Because my body certainly was not letting me move very much, and that is my go-to for unlocking what's going on mentally with me. I've been, working with a lot of stress at this time of life. Hello, I'm 36, where I'm so fortunate to have been able to buy a house with my husband, and I can't even go to the grocery store now without somebody asking me why I don't have kids. So there's stresses like that. I do want kids. That is something that I'm interested in, but being a female entrepreneur can be really stressful sometimes, and you feel alone. You do. But there are so many of them. I feel like connecting with people and creating these kinds of opportunities, but also finding your tribe, finding your people who do this too, and maybe struggle with some of the things you struggle with, is one way of working through these kinds of really stressful problems in mental health or otherwise. Um, and I went to the gym on like Wednesday, I think, and I started doing all this abdominal bracing and getting back into like training my lower body. And and all of that. And it was just like, I'm gonna get real here, but in the next couple of days, it was like the worst period of my life, the worst, like stressful menstruation, all of that. And I was like, whoa, I cannot move my body at all. What am I going to do? Um, and I am so grateful. Oh, ding dong. No, who is at the door? We'll just let that go. I am talking about being reclusive, and someone's
We can always also pause if you need to.
I think it's a salesperson, but why don't we pause for a sec?
Okay. All right, we're back from a brief intermission. But we were just talking about specifically the nuanced mental health journey for women specifically. I remember you were talking about specifically menstruation and also the pressure of having kids, which I think a lot of women also face, especially you were saying female entrepreneurs. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about with that?
Yes, I happen to have amazing mentors who are female, and I feel like seeking that out has been a really helpful thing for me because it does feel like there is so much stress regarding, you know, being a woman in this industry. It was not made for us. And we're constantly, trying to fit into this weird box of what roles are supposed to look like for us, or and we're talking about changing that, and hopefully, having more female stories and celebrating female artists. But it really is a difficult task to be a woman in this industry, whether it's musical theater or recording or being on tour or an opera singer. We're constantly paid less. We're constantly trying to fit into these boxes that weren't made for us, like I said. So when you make time for yourself and you listen to your body and you take care of yourself, there's usually a way to get through that and make progress and find the resiliency that you need. But it's hard to stop. We're constantly, even as a human that is much more of a caretaker, and I think a lot of women tend to be that, and we're expected to be that. It can be so stressful to just take a moment for yourself. Even with this, like, social media and everything, there's quite a bit of, oh, you look great on social media, you must be doing fine. um, it's not always the case. Social media can be extremely taxing mentally, and even just as someone who is doing it by myself, I had to find my own way to do it that is a balance for my life. My husband just, like, avoids it altogether. So but it can be difficult even talking about menstruation on social media, or I look at people to, like, be really interested in my stuff and ask me lots of questions. But I've watched my mentor, who is 4'11" and this beautiful Filipino gal, she lost a ton of followers when she started posting drills of her doing stuff fully pregnant and talking about being a mama and doing it all. And it just, like, boggles my mind. I feel like you are such a hero when you are forging forward in what you want to do in life, and also trying to take care of another human or grow a human inside you. That is something that other folks don't have to deal with. And the industry does not usually provide any kind of recourse for that. They don't see, they just don't hire you. Or they'll say you deal with it, and of course we have to figure it out. But these are things we don't talk about in college. These are things we don't think about when we're looking at this kind of career. And it's like insider stuff that you just have to figure out yourself. And I think the more we talk about it on social media, the more we talk about it in terms of like singing as a whole human and the specific issues that we deal with and how we can change this like this need to go all the time and try to forge a new path. Of course, you have to forge a new path if it doesn't exist. We have to support each other in that too. And the way that I can move forward, I think, in some of the struggles that I have is by holding myself accountable and by teaching the stuff that I teach. So I'm fortunate to have found a niche that I have to move every day. I have to move my body every single day. And I have to celebrate every day when I find something that unlocks someone. So I have that built into my life. And the more I do that, the more I train with someone who has a Z Health background or go to a chiropractor that has a Z Health background, the more reps I get. And repetition is what makes a skill autonomic, which is basically like automatic. You want something to be muscle memory. That mental health is a muscle too. We have to train it.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if that's not empowerment, I don't know what is. So I'd love to kind of end this interview by asking you what brings you joy, what makes you feel successful, and then finally, what makes you feel the most empowered?
Wow. Okay. Well, if it's not completely obvious, neurocentric training is something that makes me really joyful. I'm crazy excited by it all the time because it's a new, relatively new science that has been explored in the last 30 years or so. We realized that brains were plastic; they weren't fixed. And then like the world changed from you're blind and you can't see for your entire life to sticking uh, vibrators on a blind person's tongue and a study where they could effectively see a room and tell people where things were with a new input to the brain. I'm just fascinated by this stuff, and it is so empowering to learn these kinds of things and practice these kinds of things in my own singing. It empowers me to create those performing opportunities so that I can hold myself to, actually doing the thing that I teach, and trying to do it at a high level, whether that looks like Broadway or my living room. There's plenty of places in between, and I feel that that is empowering. I feel that creating opportunities for yourself, getting on the other side of the table sometimes, and getting to do the kinds of music that you love, if that's new music or something else that you're really passionate about. I think that everybody has a unique voice, just like you have a totally unique nervous system. And that information alone is empowering. I think I like to say this, and I've learned it in this neurocentric training, but education alone can decrease pain and anxiety. Education. Isn't that wild?
Mm.
So if you learn about pain and anxiety, the science of pain, and how threats work to your nervous system, that alone can decrease anxiety and pain. And I think that is incredibly empowering.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Kimberly. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you. And I hope you have a great rest of your week and your month being this empowered brain lady. It's amazing.
Brain lady, I love it. Thanks so much. It was great to meet you, Maya.
You
Thanks for
too. Thank you.